Let's check out the tail of the tape in this long-awaited pro debut for Jesse Delgado.
Well, you just said it right there. Pro debut, 1-1. Both are young fighters, but this should be a very interesting contest for this pro debutee in Jesse Delgado.
A night that ends in San Jose with the long-awaited Bellator debut of Yoel Romero begins, as always, with Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Bellator MMA's return to the SAP Center here in San Jose, California, as we get set now to kick off the prelims tonight here at Bellator 266 with 3 5-minute rounds at a contract weight of 130 pounds. And now, first introducing the blue corner at 5'7", weighing in 130 pounds even. As a professional, he's 1-1. He fights out of Fresno, California, Joshua, the real deal, Dillon. And across the cage, his adversary fighting out of the red corner at 5'6", weighing in 129.5 pounds. Tonight, he makes his professional MMA debut. He fights out of Gilroy, California, Jesse Delgado. In charge of the action, your referee, Mike Beltran.
A lot of butterflies in there right now.
For both.
All right, gentlemen, first round. You ready to fight? You ready to fight? Handle, let's go.
Talk about the wrestling pedigree. You see a close-up shot of those ears. You probably don't need that described.
Well, a lot of people would say this is a throwback fight because in Joshua, you're talking about a guy that likes to stand up and fight. And here, right here, Jesse just taking the fight to the ground. He's the grappler, but he also is very good on his feet. So he's not a guy that is not accustomed to throwing his hands and being successful.
Is that issue number one for an elite level wrestler who by definition has spent so much time on that? What is step number one in making that transition?
You know, the step number one is you've got to say, I cannot think of just being the wrestler. I've got to be a full MMA fighter. I've got to embrace every bit of it. I've got to be able to do the stand-up. I've got to be able to defend against the submissions, and I have to be able to apply those submissions on top of the wrestling skill that I possess.
In addition to the collegiate accomplishments, a high school legend in Gilroy. You heard the ovation. Obviously, a big cheering section with him for this debut. He's been coaching at Daniel Cormier's academy.
He's got a ton of kids that are under his tutelage, and you're talking about being able to learn from one of the very best. That's a great opportunity for any young kid.
Skills, sportsmanship, how to carry yourself, and it's also my understanding that those kids learn some interesting language at DC's place.
I'm sure they do. You know, right now you're looking at what Joshua Dillon's doing. He's trying to, create some space here. This is what makes wrestlers so difficult to fight, is their base and balance is so strong. You do the right things, you create frames, you try to off-balance them, and all of a sudden they're just right back down heavy on you and landing big shots. Nice step over, almost got out, wasn't able to get through that guard, still in full guard.
I mean, the first thing you see, anybody can see the high hips of Delgado, how strong he is in the stance.
Creating a lot of downward pressure onto Joshua. The shots to the body here, that's just to try to open up the guard, get him to move a little bit, just like you're seeing now. That's an open guard. He's trying to use those hips, get himself into a position where he can get out. And again, right here, Delgado needs to think. Good job of keeping his hips forward, his chin back.
Well, he took a good shot. You saw he was grabbing the fence, which you can't do. We're going to see a couple of pro debuts here coming up, and it's so fascinating to see everything you've studied. Anyone just taking a big test on the bright lights, you feel like you got it walking in there, and then, wait a minute.
Well, you said it exactly right. This is a big test, and this is a big audition. you got to figure you've got Scott Coker sitting here watching you saying, let's see what this kid's got. You go out and you impress him, guess what he's going to do? He's going to sign you to a contract. This is your audition. You want to go out there and put it all out. Don't leave anything, you know, in the tank. Do everything you can to show him what you can do in that cage.
And for Joshua Dillon, it's just, I mean, think about this opportunity for him, because there are so many eyes on Jesse Delgado that you wouldn't normally have facing the guy in his pro debut.
Exactly, but and you look, and a lot of people will say that, well, man, that's a tough fight for you. It's a pro debut. If you're going to get this guy, this is the time to get him, and this is the time for you to impress that president and Scott Coker.
Aaron Pico. I mean, it happens.
It does, absolutely. You know, and these are the things. This sport is, it's called a shoot for a reason. Anybody can win.
That's one of the things in Bellator by getting to see so many of the elite guys who are going to become elite fighters. Watching them in fights you wouldn't have seen in a previous generation, where they're learning their craft in fight 3 and 4 and 5 of their career.
Well, the one thing I'll give Bellator is they do a fantastic job of building young fighters. You know, let's just go right to the number one you could name is featherweight champion now, AJ McKee. His very first professional fight was in Bellator. He's now, what, 18, 19 and 0, all of them in Bellator, but they built him from the beginning. Nice heavy shots by Jesse Delgado. Those are the ones that start to break you down.
And Dillon grabbing the fence and not even trying to get up, leaving himself open to these shots. And as far as an opening round for a pro debut, doesn't get much cleaner than that for Jesse Delgado.
All right, gentlemen.
You guys do that with Josh the first time he was on the desk?
Ready to fight?
No, you overload him all the time.
Dillon coming out a little more aggressive. Leg kick, anything to throw Jesse Delgado off balance. Jesse Delgado's shot got the takedown about 20 seconds into round 1.
Dillon needs to, you know, that little ring that you see, he's backing himself up towards the cage way too much. He's a step forward. See, this is where
it is.
He's waiting for that to happen, and it's going to happen if you're going to sit there and wait for it.
Long learned the difference between knowing what's going to happen and being able to stop it.
This is true. Now we'll see if Jesse's able to take what his coaches gave him for information and now actually put it into practice here in the second round.
It's so early in the round, plenty of time to do it.
One of the things, look at what Jesse's doing, head positioning, look how heavy he is, driving his head into the forehead area, creating a problem just with where Joshua's head is able to be that weak. When your head's to the side, you become a weaker fighter.
Jim Heffernan, the legendary wrestling coach in Illinois, recruited him, picked him up at the airport. His life changed as he embarked on that career. And Jim Heffernan just retired. And his replacement, Mike Poeta, just hired Ed Ruth to be his assistant. That's how small the world is at the University of Illinois.
You know, and you talk about a guy that, you know, incredible wrestling credentials, unbelievable in being able to get other guys up to a certain level. Ed Ruth is going to be a fantastic assistant coach for him.
Keep his head against the cage. Work to finish, gentlemen. Let's go. Move your position. Big elbow. Big elbow. Yes, again. Do that again. Do that again. Big elbow. Big elbow. Yes, again. There it is.
The guard is a lot more closed here in round 2 for Dillon than it was in round 1.
Which is telling you he's starting to have a little bit more in the, he's getting tired, a little bit weaker, can't frame out in the same fashion as he was before. All this pressure is starting to get to him. That was a nice heavy elbow by Jesse.
You're a young fighter in your 3rd pro fight. Try finding a partner to train with who's a 2-time national champion. They don't. It's hard to find them on Craigslist.
Yes, it is. That is not easy. You can put out all the ads you want. You're not going to find them.
Hey, turn him again. Turn his head this way.
Smart. You can hear the coach telling him turn his head this way. What he's trying to do is put his head into the cage.
Left hook, left hook.
There's the opportunity. Yeah,
That's where he's trying to stop it.
Yep.
But again, look at where his left arm is, and if he has to do that right, he can block that leg, put pressure down, step over it, close down on it, and he's going to pass. Now by going for the Kimura, Joshua Dillon has let him pass in this situation.
Hail Mary attempt here.
We'll see if Jesse's smart enough he can also free up that right leg and continue all around. It will take all the pressure away from any type of Kimura.
Step over a little bit. Stay heavy on
He's
that
stepping
side.
over. That's what you hear his coach is talking about.
Head in his arms, baby.
He steps over. Now he can just walk around the head.
Big shots. Let's chase it. Put him in.
Balance to stay here.
He's going into a seatbelt position right now just to hold himself right there. You see Joshua trying to just shake him off. He needs to keep doing that. Get him heavy on the weight forward.
Really high. Delgado is.
Delgado could do a lot of things. He can reach back, go for a Suloev stretch here off of the leg since it's right there for him. But at this point in his career, I don't think he even knows what that is.
What are the odds that he knows what that is? Unless you want to yell it out.
Nice job. Now we'll see what Delgado does. Wrestlers do not like being on their back. Let's see if he scrambles to get himself back up. And this is the problem when you are dealing with a guy who is an outstanding wrestler. It's that ability to scramble out and continue on until you get your reversal, get yourself in the position you want. Right now, a lot of people are going to look at that. They think there's a guillotine. That is not going to work from the position that he's in.
Go in there, go in there, head up.
Explain why.
Yep, keep hitting him, Jesse. Keep hitting
He's
him.
got the wrong angle on the hold, and his legs are not in a position for him to create the power and leverage he needs to make that choke work.
All right, gentlemen.
7 years since he won his second national championship.
You ready to fight? Hell, let's go.
Said now or never at age 29.
Let's go. You know the shot's coming. It's all he has. All he has is that shot.
Come on, Jesse. Bring him over there.
Dillon hit an early leg kick in round 2. Does it again in round 3. And there it is. There's the shot, and there's the.
That's just timing. He was waiting for that extension by Joshua Dillon to extend forward that punch, changes levels right into the legs, brings him right down. I think Jesse would be best right now doing his work. Don't drive him towards the cage. Make it to where you can have all that room to pass to either side. You can work to either side.
Off the back of the head there, Jesse.
Step over.
Get up.
What are you hoping for? If you're Joshua Dillon right now, what mistake are you hoping for from a quote-unquote rookie?
Well, he's making a mistake right now. When you take a look at where his arms are at, see that his hands are to the ground. You do not want your hands on the ground. I don't think that Joshua is feeling that or seeing that he can actually open up that guard, try to switch his hips, take one of those arms. But right now, Jesse's in such a position as far as he's feeling so heavy on top of Dillon that Dillon's not even, I think, looking at that submission opportunity.
Where do you want his hands?
He wants his hands on his opponent. Every time that your hands go to the ground, now they're in a position they can be attacked. When they're on the opponent, it's much more difficult for you to attack that submission. See how his left arm was under the head, now his right arm under the head. He's got to be very careful. You start to get into someone who is really good at their submission game, they're going to start to attack you with that.
And inching back to where most of this fight has been, which is up against the fence.
Right now, Jesse has all the opportunity in the world to pass that guard, especially going towards his left side. The ability is there, it's just does he feel it? Nice job by Joshua, putting the feet on the hip, trying to create that space. Jesse just crushed it down.
Isn't giving him nearly as many opportunities to pass, though, in round 3. Until now.
That's a beautiful call.
Until now.
Beautiful call.
That's it. Stay heavy now. Drive your head. Left side. Come up left side.
And one thing that wrestlers are very good with, the position of half guard, is that's a wrestling position. They can control the body, they can land punches, they can land elbows. Wrestlers love the half guard. But you did hear his corner talk about half guard, then I want you moving towards mount. So we'll see if he actually follows that instruction.
Elbows. Elbows. Nice.
Keep working right there.
Stay there. Elbows.
That's the head position. Stay in there.
Getting guards open,
Ryan.
move.
Half guard, Jesse. Half guard, Jesse. Back of the half guard.
He's got mount.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't want half guard from there. Mount was there, now he gives his back.
Now right there made a mistake. He had the ability to get his hooks inside. It was open for him, but went back to his wrestling roots and getting his hips back with heavy pressure.
Which, in the fog of war, you're going to go back to what you know.
Go back to what you've been trained to do. He's got the ability to create a crucifix here. It's being a little bit difficult for him to get to as far as where the fence is. That's where he'd want to bring his opponent.
Build up. Build up. Stay up.
Again, odds you spent any time on that.
A lot of weight on Joshua Dillon right now. He's working actually to get a takedown on Jesse Delgado. Not exactly the thing you would think he would be working hard for. Would have been better for him to get out and away and possibly get to that, back to that stand-up.
Dillon left his head exposed for a split second. He got his bell rung.
20 seconds. Let's keep wrestling.
Wrestling, let's go.
Stay heavy on top.
Stay heavy on top is not advice that Jesse Delgado has needed.
Well, again, and in this situation, what we talk about is high head wins the position, and you can see that Joshua wasn't able to get his head high.
What happens when a two-time national champion makes his MMA debut? He goes to what he knows, and he dominates with it. 7 years after winning a national championship, Jesse Delgado's pro debut, and Michael C. Williams will make it official.
Ladies and gentlemen, having gone the distance, we'll go to your three judges at cage side. Your first, Michael Bell, scores it 30-27. Ron McCarthy, 30-27. And George Allen, 30-27. All have it for the winner by unanimous decision, Jesse Delgado.
High school legend in Gilroy, two-time national champion, three-time All-American, and now an undefeated professional MMA fighter.